how is the impact in everyday life.
And do you have data to provide on severe cases of COVID-19 during the phase 3? Were there any in both BioNTech or control arms?
Yes, there were 10 cases in our clinical trial. One of those was in the vaccine arm.
And how well does your vaccine adapt to a mutation version of COVID-19 virus?
Yeah, we have tested more than 20 variants of the virus with mutations and have observed that immune responses induced by our vaccine could neutralize all of the so far evaluated vaccine mutations. So we are confident that using the spike protein, the full spike protein as a target allows really to control not only the currently available mutants, but also mutants which may come up in the next 12 months.
We then have a question from the German public radio DLF on the UK. How many doses will be delivered to the UK? How many doses will be available in the EU right after approval?
This question is clearly partly dependent on our production output. We have allocated doses across various jurisdictions, and I think what we've said is that clearly we will distribute as many doses as we can, as quickly as we can, to those jurisdictions that approve this drug. And consequently, I think that it's fair to say that we have in our production plan till the end of the month, so just for this month, till the end of the month, including those vaccines that we've already produced at risk, up to 50 million doses to distribute across the jurisdictions that approve the product this month.
Then a follow-up question on that one from the German newswire DPA. Will all available stocks go to the UK? Can BioNTech and Pfizer produce enough and fast enough vaccine in order to be able to deliver sufficient stocks to Germany if EMA approves?
First of all, the answer is that we set out at the beginning to deliver this vaccine to the world, and that means fair allocations across all countries that wish to have our vaccine. So no, not all of the doses that we produce go to the UK. The UK gets, like every country, a fair proportion. With respect to manufacturing and what we plan, of course we have 6 factories currently active with respect to manufacturing, and we expect to continue to increase our output such that we will achieve a total number of doses of 1.3 billion in 2021. That is the plan.
Then a question from Politico. What is the process in the UK for the vaccine to get full approval beyond emergency use?
So it should be emphasized that the UK has special conditions, like some other countries, for emergency use. And this is a temporary approval to allow rapid administration to a population. We, of course, plan to have full licensure and approval of this vaccine in due course.
And another question from the Wall Street Journal on the regulators. Why was MHRA able to act faster than FDA and EMA? Do you have different experience with the different regulators in terms of procedures and questions, etc.? And if so, how?
We have very positive experience with all regulators around the world, including MHRA, FDA, and EMA. You have to be aware of the fact that Also, regulators are working on very compressed timelines around the clock, basically, to go through the dossiers, the data. We have to come back with questions for us to answer. So I would not see this as why was MHRA faster. I would rather see this as how fast were regulators in general, and as we expect decisions and that other authorities come back to us within the next couple of weeks, we have to say they all have been highly committed and engaged.
We have done a question about the supply agreements. With how many countries did you make contracts yet, and to whom will be the first charge of vaccine be distributed?
We've made contracts with over 10 countries currently, with many countries in the final stages of negotiations on supply. And I'm sorry, what was the second question?
Sorry, I don't have it in the list.
How many countries? Yeah. And which one? Could you give examples?
Which ones?
The first one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So of course we have in the United States we have 100 million doses committed to the United States. In Europe we have 200 million. In the United Kingdom it's 40 million. In Canada we have a supply agreement. In Singapore we have a supply agreement under discussion. Japan is we have a supply agreement for a significant number of doses. So many countries, as I say, already signed with us, but over the next few days and few weeks, we expect many more to sign too. And as I say, this has been very much a process which is coming to conclusion now as we speak.
So the next question is from Sky News about the effect of the vaccine. How quickly could the distribution of a vaccine make visible effects on the spread of the virus in a country with a population of the UK?
So to really have every vaccine which reaches an individual would be able to make an impact on the individual, and we have evidence that our vaccine really does this fast, and we will publish very soon in a few days in details the observations that we made when protection starts and how effective protection after the first and the second dose is. It is important to have an impact on the pandemic. The vaccine needs to reach sufficient number of people, and there are a number of models indicating that an impact on the pandemic spread starts to happen if 30% of people are vaccinated, but we will have only get a full effect if we reach about 60 to 70% of the people having a protective immune response, and that should be the aim, to get this coverage until end of summer next year.
And how long does it take for immunity to develop fully after vaccination?
So our endpoint was measured 7 days after the second dose. So the 95% efficacy was reached 4 weeks after the first dose. So this is at the moment the time point which we could communicate. After 4 weeks, there is a full protection, full 95% of protection. But as already stated, we made the observation that some protection occurs even earlier, and we will publish the results very soon.
And when will we know whether the vaccine prevents people from passing on the virus and not just falling ill with COVID-19?
So the endpoint was protection from disease, and but we are also assessing in a clinical fashion biomarkers which could help us to assess prevention from infection. We will be able to discuss this in about 3 to 6 months from now, since this type of assays require more longer time for testing and evaluation.
And the vaccine is bottled in a multi-dose vial. How should dilution be done? Does the approval require the vaccine to be prepared under aseptic conditions, like a laminar airflow system?
And no. You take the vial out of the fridge, out of the freezer, if it's a freezer, or if it's in the fridge. If it's in the freezer, it takes about half an hour to come to room temperature. You then dilute it with saline in normal conditions. And administer it, and within 6 hours.
And another question from Sky News on the approval process. There has already been criticism that this approval must have been rushed through. How do you respond to that?
The MHRA has asked the same level of detail of questions as any other agency, and have focused on efficacy, the tolerance of the drug, and the quality of production. So these 3 elements are key elements to any vaccine that any regulator will look in detail to, and I think the MHRA has been no different in this respect.
Yes, I can second that, yes.
Is this vaccine suitable for all people? Has the MHRA excluded any groups, such as pregnant women?
The vaccine has not been tested in pregnant women yet. This is part of a future development program. How exactly the MHRA will or the UK government will distribute the vaccine has not been commented yet.
We've done a question about the Marburg facility. Please advise if the Marburg facility production is included in the 1.3 billion guidance. Can it be added to the 1.3 billion, and where will the Marburg production be distributed?
Yeah, I can take this question. The Marburg facility is in part included into the 1.3 billion vaccine supply in 2021. Which is addressed together with our partner Pfizer. As you know, we have also a partnership with Fosun for China, and the Marburg facility will also contribute to supply in China, so that the overall amount of vaccines that we could deliver will be significantly higher than the 1.3 billion doses which are announced within the partnership with Pfizer.
We have done a question from the German TV station SWR. How safe is the vaccine for people who have been infected with SARS-CoV-2 before, with or without symptoms?
We have included in our trial people who were and who were not infected with SARS-CoV-2 before, and we have not seen any differences in the safety profile.
And does the vaccine ensure that we are immune to COVID, or does the vaccine ensure a more harmless course of the disease?
So the typical function of a vaccine to induce protection, so that the immunized person is if infected with the virus is not getting ill, or it prevents even infection, and that's the role of the vaccine. It is not an viral. It does not replicate. It just induces the immune response. So it is somehow mimicking a virus infection without having a virus infection.
We've done a question about distribution from Bloomberg News. Is priority for delivery determined on the order in which contracts were signed, or are there any other factors in play as well?
The number of orders is determined, of course, by the government's request for a number of doses, and also in a restricted environment where we as we scale up, we need to adjust those doses. Then we consider the overall population as how we distribute the total number of doses.
And is there any data on whether the vaccine protects people with pre-existing conditions?
Yes, there is data, and we will publish this data in a couple of days, as Ugo has already noted. A fraction, we have recruited healthy people up to an age of 85 mostly. This also included people with pre-existing comorbidities and conditions which were stable.
Yeah. So, for example, people with diabetes or past cancer were included into this trial.
We have then a question from a Japanese newspaper. Why was it possible for you to develop the vaccine this fast?
So it is a combination of a technology which allowed us, the messenger RNA technology, which allowed us to move fast. It is our experience and the competence of our people who are skilled in delivering vaccines, genetically engineered vaccine within a few weeks. We have a personalized cancer immunotherapy program. And it's also a matter of international collaboration with partners bringing in complementary expertises like Pfizer, who have fantastic infrastructure for clinical trials and is one of the most experienced vaccine developers.
And when will the data of the phase 3 be published?
In a couple of days. The first publication, and there will be more
to come.
Then another question from the BBC. Do you have a distribution contingency plan for possible disruption on the UK border due to the Brexit transition period ending at the end of this month?
I think we are distributing that product from our Belgium facility either by lorry or by plane. If there's disruption, then we'll find another route, and that's the principle that we are adopting. Most important thing is that we get as much vaccine to the UK, to their allocation as quickly as possible, and BioNTech and Pfizer are very committed to doing that.
And then a question on the trials from the Washington Post. Were there people who were administered the vaccine in the trials who still contracted coronavirus observed to have a milder course of the disease, or were there still serious cases?
So as already stated, there were 10 serious disease cases in the whole population. 9 of this severe disease cases happened in the placebo group, and only 1 in the vaccine group. So the vaccine is also able to protect from serious disease.
The next question is it known for how long the vaccine will protect against the novel coronavirus after vaccination?
This is one of the questions we will tackle in the follow-up of the vaccinated participants. We can not only say that when we have observed the respective duration of time.
Then the next question on BioNTech. How much will the number of employees at BioNTech grow in the next year? What do you expect?
We will continue to grow the company extremely rapidly. It's important for our business model and our development. We've grown with the addition of Marburg. We add another approximately 300 people to a 1,500 people strong organization. So we're currently at 1,800. You can expect that to continue to grow next year as we add additional infrastructure at BioNTech.
And another question on the trials. How will you monitor adverse events in this enormous rollout?
That is part of follow-up within the clinical trial. So for up to 2 years, in particular also in the phase 3 trial, we will continue to follow up and monitor for both safety, adverse events, and also efficacy.
I think the question was about people who get the vaccine in the rollout.
Oh, okay. There are programs in the rollout outside of a clinical trial, which are also conducted partly with the governments to follow up people who are vaccinated, also in terms of safety and adverse events.
And is there any difference in efficacy between different races, for example, Japanese and European people?
We will comment on that in more detail in our upcoming publication. Briefly, I can say we do not see differences in efficacy across ethnicities, across genders, across age groups.
And another question on BioNTech. How many people work for BN2162 in your company?
So this is difficult to exactly define since the project involves people who directly work for this program and a lot of people who support this program. My guess is that we have about 800 to 900 people directly or indirectly involved in the development of the vaccine and in manufacturing of the vaccine.
At BioNTech alone.
At BioNTech alone, and of course, there is at least the same number on with our colleagues at Pfizer, and more than 300 people with our partner Fosun working in China on this program.
And how big of a role did you think the rolling submission play in the quick MHRA decision?
It plays an important role because, and this is the case for all authorities who have accepted rolling submissions, because that means they can start right away to go through the dossiers, review the data, come back with questions which we can respond to immediately, and this massively accelerates the process of assessing in depth the data we have provided.
And can chronically ill kids get vaccinated?
This is also part of our upcoming trials within this program. We plan to conduct pediatric clinical trials in which we also look into such at higher risk populations.
And how many teenagers has the vaccine been tested on? Has the vaccine been approved for teenagers in the UK?
The vaccine has been approved for adolescents at the age of 16 and 17 years. We have tested a couple of hundreds in this age group in our global trial. For the younger ones, there is not sufficient data. In particular, for those below 12, there has not been trials yet.
Yeah. And for the rollout in UK, of course, the government and the health agencies there will decide who will get the vaccine first.
Then a question on storage. Why do different mRNA vaccines have different storage?
You want to take that one, Hugo?
Yeah, I can take this one. This is so the storage recommendations are based on trials. So we call this assessment is a laboratory assessment, which are called stability studies, and we did this stability studies so far to evaluate the stability of our product at -70 degrees, and we have also generated data for 2 to 8 degrees, and most of the stability studies are still ongoing. So in the next few weeks, we expect to get more data for stability of our product at -20 and potential prolonged stability at 2 to 8 degrees. So there should be no big differences between the different messenger RNA vaccines, but the data needs to be generated. We have just to understand that our candidate was selected end of July for this clinical trial, since we had multiple candidates and we wanted to identify the best candidate. So the stability studies for this candidate started significantly later than the data that were already available for other candidates. And we hope that we will have more data in January, February, allowing us to relax the transportation and storage conditions.
And the next question is from Hessischen Rundfunk. A person has to be vaccinated with 2 doses. So the 200 million doses for the EU are for 100 million people, or the 2 shots are counted as 1 dose?
No, the 2 shots are 2 separate doses.
Do you research on other vaccines at the moment, or is BioNTech focusing on corona?
So we have programs, messenger RNA vaccine programs for also other infectious diseases. We have already an established collaboration to develop seasonal influenza flu vaccines with Pfizer. We have 2 other partnered programs with the Gates Foundation to develop HIV vaccines and tuberculosis vaccines. And we have a collaboration with the University of Pennsylvania researching early stage vaccines for more than 10 other indications.
And the next question is about Moderna. Is Moderna a competitor or necessary for a cure of the virus?
So, as I said earlier, we don't see this as about a competition between companies. We see us collectively as providing together a solution to end this pandemic so we can all get back to normal life again. And that's the most important thing to focus on.
And the next question is from CNN Turkey. What can you tell us about the long-term effects of the vaccine?
So the long-term effects are going to be investigated in our clinical trial. As them already said, we will monitor the safety and tolerability of the vaccine for more than 2 years after initiating of the vaccination. What is important to know is that vaccines are generally among the best tolerated medicines. They have, of course, a side effect profile, but most of the side effects occur a few days after the first and a few days after the second injection. So we believe that the technology that we are using, being a precise technology, using a natural molecule, will also in the long term provide excellent safety data. But of course, we can state safety only if we document the safety, and therefore the study will continue to collect more data in the next 2 years.
And what percentage of the world population would have to be vaccinated to be safe?
So this is difficult to estimate, but it is important that we have, regardless which region of the planet, we need about at least 60 to 70% of immunity. If we don't ensure that we have global immunity, then then additional virus outbreaks will happen, and it will continue to affect our lives. So therefore, it is important to make vaccines available worldwide and ensure that people worldwide get vaccinated at least to 60 to 70% of coverage.
And in which countries have applications for approval been submitted or will be made soon?
In the United States, the United States FDA is currently considering an emergency use authorization. In Europe, Europe is currently considering a conditional approval of the vaccine, and between those 2 approaches, there are a number of countries also undertaking regulatory review and approval of our vaccine.
The next question is on safety. Did you conduct any studies on genetic safety? Changes on the genome are a great concern in the population.
And so messenger RNA vaccines by design, because RNA is an unstable molecule, and which does not integrate and directly affect the genome. Such studies are not not directly required. But we did, of course, analyze, and these studies are still ongoing, potential mutagenic effects induced by messenger RNA vaccines. And these studies are done for any other compound also. And since the studies last for at least 6 to 9 months, the data are not yet available.
So we are now taking the last questions for the Q&A session. So we have another question from the Netherlands. What would you advise as an information campaign against fear for or skepticism about vaccination, which seems to have been rising in developed countries?
We are probably not the experts to advise on this. We as rigorously scientifically guided vaccine developers want definitely to contribute our part to this by being very transparent about our data, and this is also why we want to be very fast to publish all observations we have made, and then everyone has to decide for themselves.
Then we have one last question. What percentage of trial participants got both doses?
More than 98% of the vaccinated.
Thank you very much. So we will now close the Q&A session, and thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.